very excited to stand here, a little bit intimidated by this huge audience. Yeah, let's start off with who we are, what we do. My name is Fabian Jakobs. I'm working at Ajax.org on the Cloud9 IDE. I won't show off the Cloud9 IDE today. I'll just do some demos with it, and maybe you see some features. But if you want a Cloud9 demo, grab me afterwards. I will just do it. Before working on Cloud9, I worked at Kuxu, for Kuxu. Anyone knows Kuxu in this room? Yay! Okay, and yeah, for the online IDE we built, we obviously needed an editor, and that is what turned out to be ACE. Kevin.
Okay, and I'm Kevin Dangor. I'm the manager of developer tools at Mozilla. So this is part of what we do. Actually, when I started at Mozilla, I started by working on Bespin. So I've been working on this stuff for a while, but now we've got a whole bunch of stuff we're working on in developer tools. So that's me. So code editors. Yeah, code editors are nothing new, right? I mean, we've got lots and lots of them. I don't know how many of them. I mean, it seems like there's a new one all the time. So it seems kind of like it's not rocket science, and that's true. But at the same time, there's a lot of fiddly bits when it comes to writing a code editor that's good and usable. And when you're building a web-based editor, you have the web-based, the fiddly bits, right? I mean, we all know about those. And you have the fiddly bits of getting code editing right. So one of the things that we wanted, actually from the beginning of Bespin on forward, is basically no compromises. That we want this to be an editor that competes at the same level as desktop editors. It shouldn't have any, you shouldn't feel like, oh man, I'm really giving this up to go work on this, to use this editor. It should be the one you want to use. So that's what we strive for. So basically the ACE editor, that's what it stands for up there, Ajax.org Cloud9 editor, but ACE is a lot easier to say. It's fully featured, so that means it really has a lot of the stuff that you're familiar with and comfortable with, and you'll see some of these features in action as we go along here. It's extensible, so you can write your own syntax highlighters, you can write themes, you can write new commands for the editor, change the keyboard bindings, do all kinds of other things to it. So it's extensible, it's scalable, so if you have tens of thousands of lines of code in a file, you should probably break that file up. But if you do, you can load it in this editor and it's not going to crash. And cross-browser, going back to IE7. So this is basically code you can run anywhere. And that's one difference between ACE and Bespin, was Bespin used Canvas, so it didn't run on older browsers. ACE doesn't have that particular constraint. So I'll hand it over to Fabian to do a demo.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do a small demo today. The goal is to have like a small CoffeeScript preview application, like you see it here. We're going to have two ACE instances. One on the left where you type CoffeeScript code in, and one on the right where you see live the compiled JavaScript of this CoffeeScript. And yeah, we're going to build this thing right now. But before we can do anything useful, I just want to introduce some basic building blocks. So you know what I'm talking about when I say editor or edit session. So the basic entry point is the editor instance. This is like what you're dealing with in ACE all the time. The editor is like in the model view controller sense, the controller. It has a renderer. The renderer right now is DOM-based, as Kevin said. There might be others in the future, but right now it's DOM-based. And then there's the edit session, which encapsulates all the state. State is the document you're writing, the language mode of the document. Language mode would be like which syntax highlighters to use and indentation information, and the selection. So if you were to write an editor with multiple tabs, you would just keep the editor and switch the edit sessions, because the edit session contains all the state related to a document. I'll just have prepared a small video to see how the project can be set up. This is the Cloud9 homepage. I'm signing in right now, signing with GitHub. So you can sign in with password, but GitHub is usually easier because I'm always logged in, except now. And yeah, this is the dashboard, and I'm now pasting the URL of the project. This will be in the show notes, I almost said. This will be in the notes, so you can check out the project afterwards. And it's now cloning the project on the Cloud9 server and opens it in the IDE. And since we're going the demo, I'm resetting to step 1. So now we just have like the basic application framework. And you see we have ACE as a Git submodule, but it's empty. Cloud9 supports Git, so you can just type Git submodule update and fetch all the dependencies of ACE. Usually this takes a while, but fast forward this in the video. If I hit reload, you see there's the ACE repository as submodule. And there's a small server. This is a small node program, which does static file serving. We run it, and it breaks, because MIME is not installed. And we just do npm install MIME. Here we go. Hit refresh. And this is the release candidate of the new npm 1.0. And this installed MIME on the inside of the project. And now the project is running on coffeepreview.fjakobs.c9.io. If you grab your device, go there, you will see nothing yet, because this is still a video. Right? But we'll make it live now. So these are the preparations. Let's continue from here. So you've seen this in the video. I'll make this maybe full screen. Yeah, make it full screen. So pick the static file server, hit run. So and if you now go to this link, coffeepreview.fjakobs.c9.io, you will see this. Well, that's not exciting, because this is just the boilerplate HTML. Let's take a quick look at the layout here. So we have an index HTML file. It has a div for the left pane and a div for the right pane. In the left pane, there is a header with named CoffeeScript and a div with the ID coffeeEdit. This is going to be the editor. And inside of this, we have some CoffeeScript code. And the same for the right pane, a div, a header, and a div for the editor. And at the bottom, there are 2 files included. One is ACE uncompressed. This is the packaged version of ACE. If you're an editor and just want to, a developer just want to embed ACE in your page, we have like a pre-packaged version. This is what you just put in. And it references the app.js, which is still empty. There's also a small styles file, but we're not going to touch this. So this is the empty file. So what I'm writing now, I could have written on my t-shirt yesterday. Zwar ACE. So this pulls in ACE. This has some convenience API which wraps some of the stuff that you could do if you want to really customize the editor, and then can say var editor equals ace.edit coffee edit. Save it. Refresh. Yeah, so we have an editor. It's not really nice, because this is just plain text, but we know this is CoffeeScript, so we should tell the editor that it's in CoffeeScript mode. So what we do is we import the CoffeeScript mode. Mode coffee. And typo?
Mode at the end.
Oh yeah, .mode, right, thanks. And then we say editor get session. You might remember that the session is the one which keeps all the state, and the session keeps also the information which mode to use. So we get this and set mode new coffee mode. And this doesn't work yet, because as I said, we have a prepackaged ACE, and we obviously don't want to include all the language mode in one big file, because we have like 17 language modes now. So I'm going to tell the index HTML that it has to load the mode as well. So it's mode coffee. And since we know we're going to use JavaScript later, I'll add JavaScript as well. All right, let's see if I made it right. Oh yeah, I did. Just takes a while. So now we have CoffeeScript mode, we have syntax highlighting, we also have stuff like auto indent. If I put my cursor here, press enter, it automatically indents, puts the cursor in the right line. So it does have some basic information, basic support for CoffeeScript editing. Yeah, the only thing, yeah, what I don't like about this, it's the colors. I don't really match what I have in mind. ACE supports a bunch of themes. Basically, we support text-made themes, which can be converted into ACE themes, and I'm going to use a slightly more beautiful one. That's the Twilight theme from TextMate. And as with the language modes, let's first put it here. Editor.set theme. Don't have to new it. We need to include it as well. Theme. No. Yeah, this looks a lot better. This is what I like. So what's missing now is doing the same for the right-hand side, for the JavaScript mode. This is really easy. I just take this block, copy it down, and then I call it viewer. And it's definitely not coffee mode, it's JavaScript mode. So we need to import the JavaScript mode as well. And since we are only want to view this, I also set this to read only. Is it on this? No. Right. Oh yeah, this is JSEdit. Yeah, we already imported the JavaScript mode in the HTML files, so now, yeah, that's how the UI should look like. What we have to do now is like hook up the CoffeeScript compiler to the CoffeeScript editor. This basically means we listen for change events in the document, run the compiler, take the output of the compiler, and put it into the JavaScript mode, JavaScript editor. Not going to type this now, just check out the step. I think it's step, git reset hard. And it's gone. Okay. Yeah, you see now the CoffeeScript. This is the package CoffeeScript file just downloaded from the website. See in the index.html, just put in the CoffeeScript.js. The app.js changed a little bit, so this is what we had before. And here, editor get session gets me the session. Listen on change events, and whenever something changes, I call the update method. And also, I call update right away because I want to have it initially. And what I do is I get the value of the editor session, stuff it to the CoffeeScript compiler. If there's no syntax error, I go here and stuff it into the JavaScript editor. The lines 27 and 29 are mainly there to remain to maintain the scroll position. So let's see if it works. Yay! So now I can type something here like alert, yoo-hoo, if x. We got 2, and you see it's putting it here in the editor. Hey, thanks. But obviously, there's one problem with this approach. If you take a look at this, I have some AJAX.org giveaways. Whoever points me to this can get an AJAX.org giveaway. What is the problem with this code? Yes? Yeah? No? This code works? No, it's in the broader scope. It's a performance issue. Nah, okay. Exactly. This doesn't sound like a good idea, doesn't it? So the answer is I'm compiling the entire script on each keystroke whenever the document changes. And things get even worse. I do this in the UI thread. So imagine I have like a 10,000 lines CoffeeScript file. I type something, and then it takes 2 seconds to compile it after each keystroke, and the browser freezes. Not so nice. But before we're going to fix it, I'm going to show you a little bit of the technical details of ACE. Let's go back. Make sure to come to me after the talk. Technical details. Yeah, as we already mentioned, the renderer is pure DOM. But the DOM is used in a special way. We basically treat the DOM as rendering API with primitives like lines and rectangles and text and nothing more. We store really no state in the DOM, and we never read from the DOM. So it's write-only fast, which is really critical in terms of performance, because reading the DOM is really one of the slowest parts you can do, slowest stuff you can do in the browser, especially if behind the scenes the renderer kicks in and resize computations are done by the browser you have no influence on. So we never ever read from the DOM. And the idea is also that rendering the full document as DOM is just too expensive. Like if you have a 10,000 line document and create DOM structure for every line of this doesn't scale. So what we do instead is we only render the visible roles. This is something Bespin did, obviously, because if you're in the canvas, there's no point in rendering what you're not seeing. But it's also something that other web-based editors picked up. So especially CodeMirror 2 from Orion. Are you here? Yay. And also the Orion editor by Eclipse from Boris, who's doing a talk later today. They all use a similar approach. So that's pretty much how you have to do it if it should be fast. And also in terms of performance, yeah, one of the key concepts that we had in mind was that document size should never matter in terms of rendering performance. So everything which runs in the main browser thread should at max scale with the size of the viewport. So if you resize the viewport, it's okay to get a little bit slower because we have to render a little bit more. But if we double the size of the document, that shouldn't make a difference. But not everything can be done incrementally. So especially if you want to do stuff like syntax checking or JSLin stuff, this is only possible if you parse the whole document. And that's where web workers are really needed. And that's where, yeah, without web workers, a lot of the cool stuff that we have implemented and that we're going to implement in the future would simply not be possible because of the problem I mentioned before, the UI thread simply blocking us. And the way we do this is we have an infrastructure for web workers. Basically, the edit session has a reference to the document. That is what I explained before. And the worker, for example, the JavaScript parser, is connected to the edit session. Whenever something changes in the document, the worker is notified. But since the worker doesn't share any memory, the worker cannot simply access the document. Instead, the worker keeps a mirror of the original document. And basically, the change events emitted by the document, which also go into the understack, are intercepted and sent to the worker, and the worker then keeps a mirrored version of the document. And whenever the worker decides that some stuff needs to be done on the document, it simply can use its local version and then send events back to the main thread, like there's a syntax error in line 10, or there's a missing semicolon in line 20, stuff like this. So, which brings me back to the source code. By the way, everything I do here, as you see, is online. This is running on our server. I'm not running anything locally here.
Which is certainly a good testimony to the Wi-Fi here, because that doesn't work at every conference.
Yeah, I was a little bit scared to do this over the Wi-Fi, and had a backup plan, but the Wi-Fi was so good, so I thought I would be brave to do this. Yeah, I just checked out the last version. You see two files have been added. There is a coffee.js, which basically extends the existing CoffeeScript mode in ACE and overrides the create worker method. So this is a subclass of the built-in ACE worker. And you see here it's creating the worker client. And then what I said, when the document changes, it's sending the deltas to the worker so the worker can keep the mirror. And on the other hand, the worker itself emits events. In this case, the worker emits an error event for syntax errors. So when the CoffeeScript compiler cannot parse the document, syntax errors are returned. And we're using the set annotation function of ACE. So you can see annotations like these here, unnecessary semicolon. This will be shown as error in the editor. And the other event fired by the worker is the JS event, which is emitted whenever the parse was successful. And in the data part of the event is the fully parsed JavaScript version of the CoffeeScript file. So this is like the modified version of the CoffeeScript mode. The actual worker looks like this. Let's concentrate just on the onUpdate function. The onUpdate function is very similar to the update function I've shown before, which ran in the app.js. It's grabbing the value, compiling it with CoffeeScript. Then if an error occurs, I don't ignore it like before. Instead, I do some regular regex magic to find out which line the error was, what exactly the error message was, and send it back to the editor. And otherwise, I just emit the compiled JavaScript. And in the app.js, I need to reload this file. Here, this is a lot cleaner now. What I do is I simply listen on the JS event, which is propagated from the worker. And whenever this event is emitted, I take the value from the event and put it into the JavaScript editor. So when I reload now, basically nothing has really changed. So it still looks, yeah, it took a little. It still looks exactly the same, except that if I make a syntax error now, you see that it's putting unexpected identifier. Jeremy, are you here? I would like to have better error messages. Otherwise, CoffeeScript really rocks. Yeah, and if I type here, for example, in this array, you see that it doesn't update. Oh, there's syntax error. Oh, there's still syntax errors. Yeah, it updates the right pane. But now the difference is that it never blocks my typing. So I don't feel any lag when I type because all the heavy computations are done in the background. So this is the final version. You can, I've put it on GitHub. I'll I show the link in the last slide. Right, so Kevin, maybe you can show some of the other ACE features.
All right. So that's a good introduction to how you can integrate ACE and extend on it. I'm just going to show a few other features that you can use in ACE that are kind of interesting. So for people who saw Bespin as it was a couple years ago, there was a command line. That was one of the somewhat unique features. Was there's a command line because editors often grow a lot of features, and so that command line is still available if you want to use it. And basically, in this case, we're taking the replace all command. You can see that not only does this command line give you help, but it actually gives you a form you can fill out if you prefer to use a GUI. And one other thing that comes along with that is that if you want to not have the command line there, you can basically run, you could make it so that you could run editor commands.
Oh, shit.
A race against time.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see. Hold on, let's get this playing again.
It won't.
Oh, it won't? Okay. Well, anyway, what I was saying about the command line was that the really cool thing about that is that you could have you could basically have a pop-up of that GUI window that had the replace all command input without having the command line if you want it. But of course, the command line is great because if you have a command line, that basically means that people can run any command using keyboard access, and they can discover the commands really easily through the help command and all that. So that's a pretty cool feature, and you can use it, if you or not. Actually, it's an optional module. And you can see that running replace all does in fact replace all. And really, pretty much all the editor commands, everything you do in the editor, is this sort of command that you can actually use this way. Another feature I want to show off is something that a longtime Bespin contributor just contributed. It's basically code folding. Julian Vierek coded this up in just a few days, which is pretty amazing. Now, the way that code folding is implemented right now is unstructured code folding, or what Wikipedia calls user folding, where basically you can select any arbitrary range of text and say, fold this. And it does. It shrinks it down. So that means you can shrink down argument lists if you want. You can shrink down blocks of code. The great thing about this implementation is that means most people are probably used to structured code folding, where it's based on your program structure. It's very easy to implement structured folding on top of this kind of folding. It'd be hard to go the other way around. So that's a pretty cool feature that just recently landed in the tree.
Yeah, this week, actually.
Yeah, just a few days ago. And the last thing I want to show is basically a Firefox plugin made by Gozala on GitHub. Basically, it has VI key bindings because he really likes VI. So that's one of the unique features about ACE is that you can do VI or Emacs style key bindings if you like. And that's the way this one works. You can see I'm pressing like escape, KKKK to move up, and O to open the line. So that's pretty cool. But the interesting thing also about this is that he made it, this is actually a Firefox add-on, so that if you put edit : in front of the URL, it'll download that file and then let you edit it. So that's kind of neat. Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about the past, present, and future of the project. So I'll just start with the past. So to paraphrase Carl Sagan, if you want to build a code editor from scratch, you need to first create the universe. So 13.7 billion years ago, we had a universe created. Then the dinosaurs would have loved this editor if they weren't so busy eating things. And then 230,000 years ago, humans came along. That was probably a good thing. Bacon. Everything is better with bacon, 1770. 1983, the A-Team. Who wasn't influenced by the A-Team? These guys probably were. Ben and Dion. So now we get into something actually relevant. So Ben and Dion, in 2008 or so, basically were thinking, wow, the web has all these cool things, all this new technology like Canvas and things like that we can use. And wouldn't it be cool if we could do all of our editing in the web browser, if we could do all of our coding in the cloud? And so they whipped it up. And then they tried to figure out what to do with it. And what they decided to do with it was to bring it to Mozilla. So in 2009, Bespin made its launch into the world as a Mozilla Labs project. So over the course of 2009, we were busy figuring out, doing all kinds of experiments with it, figuring out where we wanted to take it, what made sense for Mozilla, what made sense for the project. And then in 2010, we had some ideas of what we wanted there. And that became Mozilla Skywriter, basically a more fully fledged project because we kind of had a better idea of what it was all about. And at that point, we were really much more focused on the embedding case, and we were thinking, kind of toying with the idea of maybe we'd have a server side that's based on Node and things like that. And then at JSConf.eu in Berlin, just a few months ago, we met these guys who actually had the server side that we were imagining. They were actually using WebDAV the same way we were thinking of, and we thought, hey, this is great. We might as well work together on this because we're really heading in the same direction. And so that's what brought us to this point. That's how ACE and Skywriter merged together so that we got the best features of both. So that brings us to the present. So I'll hand it to Fabian.
Yeah, so today we have a couple of applications using it. One of my favorites, the Kuksu Playground, now uses ACE as editor. There's a very cool project called SourceKit, which is, I think it's a Chrome app, which you can use to access files on your Dropbox account and edit this with ACE. There's something called Blue Griffin. It's based on Mozilla Zool technology. It's a HTML editor, which uses ACE to edit HTML files. There's RStudio. This is really cool because it's like a niche product for the R statistical analysis language. And they built language modes for the R language, for LaTeX, for I think like 3 or 4 different language modes. It's used in the add-on builder at Mozilla, and obviously in the Cloud9. There are also a couple of more projects, but these are some of the use cases where you can see ACE already being used. And right now we have something like 30 plus contributors, so it's really active. It's active on GitHub. We have a lot of watchers and forks. One number I'm particularly proud of is that we have more than 230 pull requests, so people really contribute, and this goes from like small bug fixes, fixing typos, adding language modes, to stuff like the code folding, contributed by Julia and Fiek, which is like a major part. And right now we have like 70 language modes. This week we got, I think, Clojure and OCaml support for the more freaky languages. The cool languages. And yeah, for the future, we have big plans, especially for the IDE. We want stuff like deeper language integration. Anyone who has seen the talk by Peter Fandesey, doing static analysis on JavaScript and doing really highlighting problems in the source code, code completion, code navigation, code folding. All this is something that we are working on that should land in ACE probably by the end of this year. And probably the biggest missing feature at this point is documentation. Bespin was pretty good in terms of documentation. ACE isn't yet, but that's something we are actively going to work on. And that's it. So check out ACE, fork it, change it, send in pull requests, just have fun using it. Thank you.
Country roads take me home to the place I belong, Portland, Oregon, the JSConf. Country roads